Role-playing is about more than just being funny, What's hard is to get people emotionally invested in the story. Nana, you promised you wouldn't disturb the game.
I'm just making myself a sandwich.
Well, it's disturbing.
No, you and your friends sitting in there pretending to be elves and fairies. That's what's disturbing.
Episode of Rolling 20s. We are the ones starring as the newest Ninja Turtles, Rodan, Da Vinci, Van Gogh, and Jenna Jameson. I am Jeremy.
Steve. Jesse.
B.
Remember, you can subscribe to this show and several others in the MSP library at missionstarpodcast.com. You can find this show on iTunes and on Stitcher. You can subscribe to us on Twitter at rolling_20s. You can like our Facebook page under Mission Star Podcast. You can send me any fan mail, suggestions for the show, or hate mail at mspfreight@yahoo.com. We borrow the music again of Machine Supremacy. You can find their stuff for free download at machinesupremacy.com, with the exception of the latest albums, which you can, of course, find on amazon.com. At the beginning of this show, we used part of a trailer for a new movie called Zero Charisma. You can find that for direct video download on Amazon Instant and Netflix Instant. How has the week been?
It's going better now that I have internet back.
I have joined the Legion of smartphone users.
I didn't know we were a legion. I always assumed we were zombies.
Well, one in this.
Oh, that's a horde.
I've hoarded myself rather frequently, yes.
Oh.
No?
I'm not going to touch that.
Okay. I think I've heard that in regards to my hoarding as well. It's kind of a strange day today in particular. There is a marathon going on of gaming run-throughs to try and get donations for cancer victims and research. And as part of it today, during their stream, Nathan Barnett stopped in on Skype.
Oh.
So, of course, he was interacting with everybody as well as answering questions. Turns out he's in the middle of filming a new pilot for Comedy Central. It's going to be called Chugging Gigabytes with Keith Apicary. Think of it as a nerd version of Win Ben Stein's Money. The character of Apicary is going to be your host. He's going to be answering questions, relaying several physical challenges, and then at the end of the show, you get to what's called the boss level, where you have to do dueling trivia with Keith Apicary himself.
Okay, so don't plan to win any money. Gotcha.
Well, I actually talked to him for a little bit and asked him if he remembered me from the time I was an extra on Youth Large with my wife. He does.
Damn.
That shocked even me. But I did manage to get him to give up an email to his manager, so I want to see what it would take if he would be willing to do an interview on a podcast.
That would be cool.
Yeah, I got to check and see what that is. He's going to be doing the rounds fairly soon. He hasn't been doing a whole lot of Apicary or dance videos because he broke his heel 3 months ago.
Oh.
He was on stage, I believe, at the Screw Attack Gaming Convention, and he made a jump, came down, and one of his ankles went crunch. No, I'm sorry, not ankle, heel. One of his heels went crunch.
I don't even want to think about that.
Well, he's still in a soft cast. But other than that, it's been a pretty typical day. I don't know. V, how has your life changed now that you use a smartphone now?
I can now listen to music away from my computer.
Using it for the same thing a lot of people do.
I can do that too. It's called a radio.
I don't have a radio or an MP3. Well, I have an MP3 player, but it's ancient, and I have no idea where I put it, so...
Don't you love how we collect devices these days that all fulfill mostly the same purposes with the exception of, like, one additional item?
Well, it's usually the thing is size.
No,
and one or two additional items, yeah.
Yeah, it occurs to me that the progression of these things over the last, maybe 10 or 15 years... It was, I got a device that allows me to play music away from my computer. I got a device that allows me to play music and watch videos away from my computer. I got a device that plays music, videos, and allows me to make calls. And now I've got one that functions in an internet browser, and it just keeps going, and now it's circled back around to, you know what, this thing is too freaking big. Why doesn't somebody make it smaller?
They have been adding more to it.
singular thing that you can like reshape depending on what you need it for and prop it up and stuff.
I know, sooner or later we're going to hold up a small device. This allows me to play music, watch videos, place phone calls, and gets me unconstipated.
And my doctor uses it to monitor my blood pressure.
Which, depending on what kind of music I'm listening to.
Poop Phone's Plaster. Oh, God. I'm laughing so much I'm befuddled. We decided this week to discuss Battle of the X-Men, the current event crossing over in a lot of the different X-books in Marvel. Before we get to that, we have our usual in the Kickstarter corner. The thing we've been following the longest right now is about to end. It's Akiba Anime Art Magazine Volume 00, otaku pop culture scenes based in the Akihabara area. A lot of local artists and writers are collaborating on their first book. It ends in 46 hours on October 13th, 2013. It has 1,180 backers. A goal of $4,500 currently sits at $57,137. You know, as much money's been put into this may still end up propping up tables somewhere. There's going to be a lot of excess copies of this. I just hope I can find it without too much trouble. What? This is not the kind of thing I think of when I'm going to a con, I admit. It's something I would like to have, but it's not what I'm first looking for.
Hmm.
Sure.
But it is a very groovy idea, and they have managed to just crush the majority of their stretch goals. They only have two more at $60,000 and $70,000. So, congratulations to them. You know, they win a cookie. The last few weeks, we've been following the Fubar Presents Mother Russia, the story of a young lady sniper in World War II Russia carrying a baby, a .38 rifle, and being harangued by zombies. This project was put up by Jeff McComsky of Lancaster, Pennsylvania. This one ended on October 8th, 2013. It ended with 1,890 backers, had a humble goal of $3,500. It ended at $95,908.
God damn.
I know, there's so much money in this. This graphic novel should read itself to me.
It should be read by Ian McKellen.
with a special commentary track by Patrick Stewart. No, but it's another black and white zombie tale. It definitely has leanings to The Walking Dead, but it's a completely different story in a different universe. From what I understand, there's a few different books that's been put out by Fubar, usually with zombies in different historical eras. It appears they found their niche. But, you know, if they can find money doing something they love, power to them.
Indeed.
Another one that ended was Forager, an all-ages sci-fi graphic novel being done by Jimmy Palmiotti of DC fame. He's running out of Safety Harbor, Florida. It ended on October 5th, so more than a few days ago. It ended with 840 backers, a goal of $22,500. It ended at $27,043. That did not gain much money from the last time we saw it. If any.
Still respectable, though.
Oh, absolutely. You know, it's an independent graphic novel. You won't have to be beholden to any large companies to do it. I don't know a whole lot about what the story is, but Palmiotti's been known for very solid writing. So, power to him. You know, it proves that sometimes just being a celebrity behind some of these projects is enough to get people to go for it. And one of the newer things we've seen on Kickstarter is the Flame Stower. You can charge your gear on the go using nothing more than fire and water and this device. V, have you heard of this thing?
Mm-mm.
Oh, I know you have.
Well, I mean, I know you brought it up last time, but no, I hadn't heard of it before then.
Well, it's an interesting little device that requires an outside source of heat, but when you apply it to the device and when you fill a cup on top of it with water, it uses a differential between the heat and the water to create power for your mobile devices.
Huh.
It's basically for those people who can't live without their smartphone while they're roughing it.
That's awesome.
Well, it has 542 backers. It has 12 days to go and ends on October 24th. It had a goal of $15,000. Currently sits at $39,266.
All I can say is all of those people using that to power their mobile devices are still going to be going, God damn it, I don't get any bars!
Well, you can bet that while they're sitting around the campfire watching their bars go up, they still won't be able. They'll be looking up the internet to find out if a bear actually shits in the woods.
I mean, a phone has other uses. I don't know about y'all, but my phone is
true. They can use it to play music or something else.
Yeah. Take notes.
Yeah, you can play some.
Pictures of birds?
You can play some awesome sound effects while that thing with the
I don't
machete
know. I
is
think the
stalking
fire
you.
might scare the birds.
Yeah, play some awesome sound effects while that thing with the machete is stalking you and your camping friends. And another project that has ended, and this we just found out about this last week, River City Ransom Underground. Conteus Creative of Ottawa, Canada is putting together a sequel to the River City Ransom 8-bit fighter in 8-bit style. The project actually ended on October 9th. It has 5,179 backers. Steve, Jesse, you guys remember when we brought this up last week? They were about 30,000 under a goal of $180,000 Canadian.
Mm-hmm.
They ended at 217,643.
Wow.
They actually get to make their game.
That's the burst that happens at the end of a Kickstarter.
Yeah. Yeah, I remember more about Super Dodgeball than I remember about River City Ransom, but this is one of those things I want to keep an eye out for. This strikes me to be like X-Men Arcade and frickin' Scott Pilgrim. This looks like a good party game to just sit there and yell at people.
Yeah.
Another project we've recently started following because it strikes the heart chord of all of us. The Phoenix Project for City of Titans.
Yay!
I don't think we've ever had fanfare for one of these before.
Well, I'm happy about this one. If it doesn't get pulled for,
Well, let's go through this first. It's supposed to be the spiritual successor to the City of Heroes MMO. This will be a combination of free-to-play plus or monthly subscription for VIP access. If you do FTP, obviously there will be microtransactions to get some of the things you want. It is a superhero MMO. It started on October 2nd. It currently has 23 days to go and ends on November 4th. It has 2,809 backers, a goal of $320,000. It currently sits at $407,120.
Yep.
This game is getting made, V.
Oh, I have to say, though, that when I made that comment about, I was so pissed, they only had 3 backers for that $75 your characters on the billboard thing.
Yes, I recall.
I found out why. I went down and I was reading some of the other stuff. It was a typo. That was their $7,500 one, but they typoed it and put it at 75.
Oh, is that why it changed to 2 backers only in midstream?
Well, somebody apparently dropped out, but yeah, those 2 backers are actually getting that because it was their fault. So kudos to them. I mean, seriously, you guys
Lucky
got a damn good
bastards.
deal.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that's why they had so few.
Okay, that makes sense.
makes sense. Yeah.
They still have stretch goals to be made. They've reached their $350,000 and $400,000 stretch goals, so there will be Android and iOS versions of the Avatar Builder. So it could be that some people will be able to pre-select what their characters will look like before the game opens.
Oh, that's nice.
They've added new stretch goals at 500 and 550,000. At 500,000, it says they're going to add things they know that we'll love. To start with, they're adding auras. And this,
Yes.
I don't know if this is a typo or the joke, but apparently one of the auras is going to be called Kirby Crackle.
Yeah, those are the black dot aura.
Okay,
Get that one.
that's the name
awesome,
of a
though.
comic book band.
Yeah, I know. That's too funny.
And at 550,000, they get that far. They will add 4 distinct wing types to the game.
I do love wing types.
Will they be flapping wings or just stay there?
That I do not know. They're talking about animations in
It has to
addition
be
to the
flapping.
wings, so
There's no
it
way
sounds
it's
like they'll
just-
move. I can't say for sure, but they'll also add 2 more cape styles if they get to 550,000. It sounds like they have a full plan, thankfully. Something
Hey. Anyone want to take bets that this reaches 1 million?
Well, I'm certainly going to back it. I just haven't decided how much yet.
Yeah, I'm
If you back it-
pretty sure I'm going to be at the $50.
Yeah,
That-
if you get a mogul, you have to invite the rest of us to your penthouse.
Hell yes, I would love to be able to back at some of these higher level ones, but I just don't see it happening.
Oh,
Yeah.
something Steve brought up to us last week was the Burning Suns by Sun Tzu Games out of London.
Mhm.
This is some kind of tactical science fiction game that involves dice. They even have dice guard ships, as they call it.
Mhm.
They ended on October 5th. They have 1,313 backers. They had a goal of 40,000 pounds UK. They ended at 89,537 pounds.
And the scary thing was, I mean, it wasn't until like almost a week before it was ending. They had made their goal. They had gotten the 40,000, but they didn't get up to 50,000 until I'd say like the last week. And then within that week, they shot up to 80,000, almost 90.
Now, what is this? Is this like a board-style D&D game?
Board-style tactical.
Okay. So somewhere between D&D and Risk.
More closer to Risk.
Okay. Well, that's coming out. Did you back it?
Yeah.
Man, where are you getting all this money from? You're suddenly in the midst of a bunch of different stuff.
That's
here.
what I'm trying to figure out.
Honestly, it wasn't that expensive, so...
Okay. All right. Well, maybe after the show we should discuss what level you want to get involved in City of Titans.
Yeah. I mean, honestly,
We
at least my group of friends around here kind of got together and got that $500 together for the Pathfinder, but I'm not quite making as much money right now, so I don't know if I'll be able to do that.
I know the feeling. Something I just found out about that apparently just ended on October 1st is a Kickstarter for a convention, believe it or not.
Oh.
It's called Con. It's an anime video game convention that's to be run out of Albuquerque, New Mexico, being put up by a guy named Justin. Like I said, it ended at the beginning of the month. It had 75 backers. They had a goal of $3,000. That 75, they put up some cash because they ended at $4,075.
Wow.
I don't have a calculator in front of me, so I can't tell you what the average amount of that money is, but that's more than significant. But at the same time, it looks like a brand new convention is coming to the Southwest.
Mm-hmm.
They've already lined up guests in the form of Christina V and Kyle Abert, who, to be fair, appear at just about every convention they can get their name on. But they are inviting a couple notable cosplayers from... their names are Kenya-chan and Kyoka Ichinoya. So they look to have most of what you would want from a convention. And they're doing the ribbon idea similar to Anime Los Angeles. So you can bet there will be people running around everywhere trying to get special tags on the badge. Another convention that's been attempted to kickstart is called Anime South Rebuild. It's being done by Mark Yu at Pensacola, Florida. Apparently he's trying to put back together Anime South, which fell apart at some point I'm not aware of. The idea is to put it together for December 27th to 29th this year in Pensacola Beach, Florida. This is not great news because they have 5 days to go. As of currently, which today is October 10th, they have 8 backers and a total of $526 out of a $5,000 goal. Odds are not great.
Yeah, not very good.
I mean, 8 backers and that amount of money, you'd almost assume that the 8 backers are this man and maybe a few of his friends.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I'm not saying that to be denigrating. It's just I have not heard of this Kickstarter before. I vaguely remember hearing about the anime convention itself in years past, and I don't think this is marketed well. If you want this to happen, you've got to get your fingers deep in the community, and it sounds like he did not.
Yeah. Just putting it up on the Kickstarter is not really going to get you enough attention. You really got to put it out there.
Yeah, and I only came across this because I put the word anime in the search, and it happened to come back with a couple conventions today. Another new Kickstarter that's running is Space Bastards. It's a comic book. The storyline is that a man who is an accountant in space got bored of his job, and then he decided to take a job via an ad for the Intergalactic Postal Service, which includes a $30,000 signing bonus if he can make it through the first week. The guy he's supposed to do a ride-along with for that week is called the Manicorn. Some kind of psychotic that really enjoys putting pain down on people to the point of ripping limbs off them. I don't know. I've never heard of this before, but I must admit it's stoking my curiosity. It has 12 days to go and ends on October 24th. 66 backers, a goal of $5,000. They currently sit at $3,345. They still have a shot at getting this.
Mm-hmm.
I wouldn't expect this on my comic book shelf, but I admit I'm more than a little curious as to where this is headed. And, you know how things in the occult tend to hit into pop culture at varying times? Sometimes it's monsters, sometimes it's werewolves, sometimes it's vampires. obviously...
What's it this time?
Well, this is obviously the age of the zombie.
Ah.
Yeah.
There is another comic book Kickstarter, and this title is pretty self-explanatory. It's for a new series called Zombies Hate Kung Fu.
Okay.
This is being put up by Ricky Marcel Pitcher of London. It's a comic book where a, quote, mismatched pair fight to survive in a post-zombie apocalypse world. Yeah. But apparently they're using Kung Fu as their primary form of defense. It has 28 days to go. It ends on November 9th. It has 119 backers. This thing is only about 15 days old, excuse me. It has a goal of £5,000 UK. It currently sits at £3,024. They've got a pretty good shot at actually doing this.
Yeah.
Some of the backer rewards are a little odd, though, including screaming zombie rings of either plastic or metal. I don't know what else. I don't know what else to say. I don't need that on my finger. And the last Kickstarter I have is I'm still following the draft for the Bubblegum Prices Ultimate Edition box set, being done by Robert J. Woodhead of Wilmington. He's apparently almost done with his draft and is getting ready to launch this Kickstarter for $80,000. The idea is he wants to get the rights to the Bubblegum Crisis, Bubblegum Crash, and Bubblegum, I believe it was 2040?
I think that's what you said.
Yeah, and for that $80,000, he would produce a new U.S. Blu-ray of these series, and some of the stretch goals would include getting copies of the AD Police as well. I'm curious to see if this works. I'm going to be following this one rather closely.
Yeah, it would definitely be interesting to see all of that come out in one package. It'd also be interesting to see how much he charges for it.
Yeah, I know. I'm with you in that curiosity, but I'm trying to be guarded. You know, it's easy for stuff like this to be a complete letdown.
Yeah.
Okay. As I said at the beginning, we used a clip from the trailer of a movie called Zero Charisma. Are you guys familiar with that project?
No.
I read an article on it this morning.
Okay. It's a movie I now want to see, and it's out on instant video right now. What it is basically a love story, or it's a love letter to nerds. Basically, a guy who's a hardcore 80s nerd into D&D to the point where he is regarded as the ultimate dungeon master by his friends. He invites a new guy into his circle whose charisma quickly takes over the crew. He's not looking to become the dungeon master, he's just one of those guys that loves to have fun, whereas the current dungeon master is trying to convince him that D&D isn't about fun, it's about telling stories.
A little
What?
Yeah, personally, I want to watch this because I have known people just like both of these archetypes.
Yeah.
You know, frankly, this sounds like some of the things that Steve and I used to do when there were D&D and Pathfinder games on a regular basis. To me, you always have to have those moments where you stop the game for a couple moments and tell some good jokes.
Yeah.
My Pathfinder game
don't
is
have to
that
do
every
that
10
here.
minutes. Like, we just end up getting sidetracked and talking about movies or something.
That happens at just about any good D&D game, in my opinion.
Crass jokes.
Yeah, it's when you're occasionally sitting around and sooner or later you do something silly or stupid, you laugh, you talk for a couple minutes over pizza, and then you get back into it.
Yep.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, that's the ideal part.
But I've played with people that are like, no, if you must be in the game at all points of time. They're usually people that run White Wolf games.
Yeah, those are also the ones that
I've
generally
noticed that.
they're also the ones generally halfway dressed as their character, carrying a foam sword and yelling at you. They're the ones that to me are the least amount of fun.
Yeah.
But yeah, I want to see this. This sounds like a lot of fun to me. And you guys remember? I think it was maybe 2 weeks ago, where we mentioned a new narcotic in the U.S., crocodile.
Yeah.
Okay, it's a new narcotic that people that smoke it experience degraded intelligence, and they can get these screen gaily sores. I don't think I want to say that out loud. Green scaly sores, as well as these lesions in their skin.
Basically, their arms rot off.
I actually have a picture I'm going to link, and according to the story on the Times Weekly, it's the least graphic picture of a crocodile user they could find. It affects the legs as well. At least 3 people were treated at an area hospital after taking this thing. And I'm not quite sure where it is because it just it says it's a reliable local news. It doesn't say what state this is based out of. I'm sorry, it's in Will County, wherever that is. This stuff is horrible. I don't understand why people would take this willingly other than the fact it's cheap.
They probably don't.
Well,
They're
it's
probably doing something else and someone gets them hooked on it.
more than likely, but it's cheaper than heroin. It's about 10% of the price of heroin. It can be taken orally or via injection, although the injection is the preferred choice of many users as it produces more of the high.
Oh, that's the issue. People who are jonesing for heroin can get that.
Yeah, this stuff is horrible because what this is a mix of over-the-counter painkillers with gasoline, paint thinner, and red phosphorus.
Seriously?
Yeah, apparently it's a homemade version of something called desomorphone.
I
know, this doesn't sound intelligent to begin with, but you gotta admit, junkies rarely ever think with both lobes.
Yeah.
Yeah, just inject poison into your veins. See how long you last.
Yeah. You know, this... I don't know how else to say it, except the picture I'm looking at, it looks like somebody's legs were like a wax statue if somebody started going at them with a cigarette.
Ooh.
It's horrible. And Japan is going to kill us.
Why?
Well, they're not going to send Godzilla, thankfully. They've already sent horrible radioactive mutants, and they've landed in Nebraska. I can hear the...
This is something of a fallout from the nuclear reactor and...
Yeah, imagine a hornet. Okay? Hold out your hand. You know, flatten your palm fingers together. That length from your top of your index finger all the way down to your pinky finger is how long the Fukushima hornet currently is. These are giant hornets that can sting multiple times.
Well, most hornets can.
Have 20 times the venom of a normal hornet. Their venom,
Lovely.
when it's injected in the skin, can cause almost immediate necrosis around the area of the sting. They made it to McPherson County, Nebraska via a shipment of Japanese snack crackers. Apparently a few of them were inside the crate, and while they were in the crate, they got busy, so there was a bunch of larvae in there as well.
Lovely.
Yeah, I'm sorry, it wasn't 20 times stronger than common wasp venom. According to scientists, it's 2,000 times stronger than normal wasp venom.
Oh, so...
Forgot a couple zeros there.
Yeah, they're quadruple, because of the radiation, they are quadruple in size and hyper-aggressive. Think African bees, but worse, believe it or not.
I'm really glad I don't live in Nebraska.
I used to. This isn't the reason I moved out, but I'm certainly glad I'm out of there. But the entire...
All I can say is, I'm really glad it's wintertime. They're probably not going to survive.
Well, according to the owner of the Asian market that accepted the crate, they discarded the larvae and killed them, and they thought it was done with. The next morning, they noticed the dumpster was teeming with huge hornets. They had to call a professional exterminator, and they're still not sure they got everything.
Wow.
Yeah.
So this could be the step where bee people actually take over.
Are they, is it fatal to get...
It can be without immediate treatment.
Yeah, if it starts causing necrosis, that's never good.
Yeah.
Well, yeah.
Let me put it this way. Leon Hobbs of the Nebraska Medical Research Symposium said this, quote, "I've never seen anything like it. One sting causes nearly immediate necrosis of the surrounding tissue. The venom then quickly spreads, causing the destruction of organs. Most victims succumb to renal failure within hours. Some have had such intense allergic reactions that the complications were enough to cause death within a matter of minutes," unquote.
Dude, this sounds like
Damn.
an X-Files episode.
Just about. You know, I don't know what else to say, except if I was living in any town these things were suspected and I heard a buzzing, I'm in the house, everything's locked, and I don't care if I'm sweltering hot. Those windows are not opening.
Yeah. And this is yet again another instance where radioactive stings or bites are not actually conducive to gaining superpowers, unfortunately.
I don't know, work for Swarm. Well, in other news, lawyers did not intend for Electronic Arts to stop making the college football franchises, according to SB Nation. Apparently, part of the fallout from this lawsuit for players looking for compensation from EA for their likeness in several of the NCAA games, the lawyers didn't actually want the game shut down. EA did that on their own, somehow.
Huh.
I imagine they just wanted to stop dealing with this. I don't think they want to make another game and have that added to whatever settlement is going to come down the pipe. Still, Electronic Arts has had its own issues lately. This couldn't have helped.
No.
But EA and the Collegiate License Company settled their part of the lawsuit on this last week, agreeing to pay out $40 million to thousands of players. As many as potentially 300,000 of them. After lawyers' fees, these players could get an average of about $133 per person.
That's it?
Yeah, why do people bother with stuff like this?
That's the trick of the
System.
The class action.
the class action lawsuits. None of the people involved that really should be getting the money, they don't get the money. The lawyers get the money.
Well, the lawyers, I think, get like 40% right off the top.
Exactly.
I have
They get
trouble
40% of that lump sum, and then everybody else has to get the divided out amount. If you got a couple million people, or a couple 100,000, or a couple thousand, you're not going to be getting any kind of money from any of this.
I have difficulty not thinking of lawyers as evil.
There's good ones out there, but yeah, the ones we always hear about are like Gloria Allred and, frickin' OJ's lawyers. And one of them spawned the Cardassians, so he's definitely a double dose of evil. The U.S. has greenlit a project to create what they call Talos. Talos is short for the Tactical Assault Light Operator Suit. Basically, they're trying to create Iron Man-style armor.
That's
Awesome.
just badass.
Well, it's a little more feasible than what you see in the movies and what Tony Stark has built. Basically, it's a system of a liquid armor that can, depending on the electrostatic reactions of the wearer, become solidify. It can ward off explosions, seal up wounds, and allow soldiers to see in the dark. They have a simulation of how it's supposed to work and in what direction they're headed. It sounds like they have half the technology they need to begin with. The fluid body armor was designed already by researchers at Massachusetts Institute of Technology, or MIT. It can change from liquid to solid in a millisecond when exposed to the proper electrical current. I mean, we're not talking flight and repulsors, but we're definitely talking about a suit of armor that could save lives on a battlefield.
Yeah.
I'm almost surprised they went forward with it, considering how American warfare lately does seem to be kind of a point-and-click type of affair these days.
Well, they were just talking the other day about how, at least on our War on Terror standpoint, we've gone to smaller, high-intelligence, mini troop movements going for precise targets. So this could be something, to aid in that kind of an endeavor.
It's just when I think about this, I admit, before we started talking about it, I was thinking about infantry wearing these suits and how weird that would be. Now that we've talked about it and how warfare has changed, I suddenly have an image of SEAL Team 6 wearing these things, and I'm scared.
That's what I imagine.
Ugh. Well, Bill Gates I don't know what to say. He always tries out new things before other people do. That seems to be his forte in life. He's actually backing a company that's reinventing meat.
What?
About this.
Yeah, some kind of vegetable-based protein item. That,
Tofu?
Not tofu, it's something else.
Soylent?
That I would.
I don't think so. This is based on the work by some Dutch scientist named Mark Post. Basically, think of it this way. A 5-ounce hamburger grown in a laboratory from cow muscle would cost $325,000. Basically, if you're genetically engineering the meat, because apparently our current form of produce and livestock is going to be unsustainable.
Oh yeah.
So they're looking at it from different ways, and this is some kind of soy protein that they put together that they've recently figured out the recipe, because you can make it have the texture of meat, but the taste is always more difficult to come by.
Mm.
And they've produced it to the point that the suggested retail price of 12 ounces of packaged cooked strips would be $5.29. Less than their steak equivalent, which would be about $9 to $10.
Yeah.
So it sounds like they're close to being able to mass produce this. That could take a lot of stress off farmlands if you don't need to sustain cows and chickens on them anymore. as long as we're getting protein, I don't see the harm in this. And if we can change to a
that would be wonderful. I'm just foreseeing corporate wars.
Oh, yeah, you can bet there's going to be pushback from corporations who don't want to do it anymore, all the way down to people who just don't understand the difference and will never give up meat.
As well as the farmers who are going, damn you, you're ruining our livelihood.
Yeah.
Well, they totally will, though, because they eat fast food.
Yeah. It's just one of those things where you know that the main argument behind all this is going to be some guy with white hair just says, this is the way it's always been. And I've said before that I don't like that argument because as far as I'm concerned, when people say that's the way it's always been, the first thing I picture is slavery. That's the way it always was for a long time until we actually changed it.
Well,
Yeah.
I would think fast food would be one of the first people to hop on into this.
Not necessarily, because they have to. Any business has to do what's going to keep the most customers, and you can imagine that there's going to be a whole group of people, especially in southern states, who will hate this idea.
Well, I mean, just because we use this technology doesn't mean all of it has to go that direction, and it might even free up room for organic things and whatnot.
Yeah, but you're thinking logically.
Yeah. No one ever thinks logically.
Not in large groups, anyway.
Yeah, not in large groups.
See, this is why I'll become a villain if I get superpowers. I'm going to rearrange everything so it's logical.
If you do, just save me a placard that says Lieutenant Bash and a nice jacket.
Okay.
Thank you. And in further technology news, DARPA has a Wildcat robot that can wirelessly run.
Ooh, that's cool.
That may not sound like a big deal, but you actually have now an ambulatory robot that can be remote controlled that can run faster than a human can. Think of it this way. The Cheetah hits speeds up to 28 miles per hour. The Wildcat robot that DARPA's built hits 16 miles per hour. The average human being runs at only 15 miles per hour at short distances.
Yeah, I saw an article. Somebody was making a comment on it and said, I totally need a robotic attack cat.
Yeah, well, Yahoo is actually less rosy about the outlook on this thing because they say, meet their latest creation, the Wildcat, a wireless robot speed freak that runs faster than most of us bipeds. Give it half a brain and a switchblade, and we're doomed.
Yeah, the robot war is coming.
According to them, it's already here. We may have a war of a different type coming up because this is going to empower PETA and enrage people who don't think of animals as people. Brain scans recently show that dogs are as conscious as human children.
That doesn't surprise me in the slightest.
Yeah, in other words, those canine companions are usually licking our feet. They think on the similar level to small human children. That's going to piss off cat owners to no end. I'm sure they're going to ask to have their animals scanned. But at the same time, that does make you second guess what exactly we're doing when we have centers that eventually euthanize animals. That means these things are capable of feeling that something's wrong and something's about to happen.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know about y'all, but I have cats, and I'm quite certain they're childlike.
I've owned cats, and I was quite certain it was about to kill me.
I'm quite certain that they know far more than they let on.
Yes, I agree.
Yeah.
Just let us do it because they're sultans.
Speaking of Houston, one comes. Yes, what?
Well, that's one of those cases where now every time I look at my dog, I'm going to wonder if my child could reach around and chew his own butt, would he?
All you can say about that revelation is, okay, tell me something new.
Okay, well, how about a new technique to probe exoplanets?
I'm interested.
Due to light refractions in the atmosphere of planets we can view through long-distance telescopes, we can now tell what kind of habitability range they would have for humans. That means we wouldn't necessarily have to send people out there to go sniff the air. We could actually tell where we need to go before we launch any ships.
You mean like temperature and oxygen and stuff?
Yeah, as far as content of the atmosphere, overall temperature, we can get that by basic measurements between the star, the size of the planet, and its density. But now we can actually tell whether or not humans can set foot on it before we get out.
That's really awesome.
That's actually, that's awesome.
And We're getting warp drive soon.
Yeah, this was figured out by Bjorn Benneke. He's a graduate student in astronomy at MIT.
Nice.
So it's nice to know that in this age where politicians are the dumbest assholes I've ever seen, we actually still have intelligent humans coming forth.
Yeah.
They're just smart enough not to try to run a country.
Well, at least they didn't shut down MIT because they didn't like the answer. And speaking of something V is going to just kind of purr over, we've had our first net positive nuclear fusion reaction.
Yes, I read about that.
What? See, she literally purred. Basically what that means, guys, is that for the first time ever, we've had a nuclear reaction that produced more fuel than it took to make it.
Right.
Not
Positive
even
energy.
Yeah, it actually created more energy than it took to work the damn reactor.
So we just debunk one law of physics.
Not debunk it, but we're definitely pushing it backwards. It happened out at the National Ignition Facility. Excuse me. And the press release was by the BBC, so I assume this is in the It's in the United States. They used 192 beams from the world's most powerful laser. It's a rig the size of 3 football fields. And it heated and compressed a tiny capsule of hydrogen fuel to the point where nuclear fusion took place. So, it sounds like all those movies where they talk about hydrogen as a way of the future, we may be almost there.
I can't wait for that one bomb to go off.
Unfortunately, we're humans, and that means the error is going to occur, but frankly, after what's happened in Fukushima, I would rather have something burn than give me giant fucking hornets. Okay, I have my preferences.
Would you prefer giant lizards?
Yes, because I can see giant lizards coming rather than little hornets that are going to sting me and kill me. You know, at least I can run and have that moment of fandom when I just say, look, I ran from Godzilla.
No, knowing us, we'll sick the giant hornets on Godzilla.
Unfortunately, we are just that stupid. And in technology news that affects what a lot of us are going to do, technology is changing as how we attend conventions. New York Comic Con is going on this weekend. They are the first one to use RFID chips in their badges. For those who don't know, they're radio frequency. Whoa.
Try again.
Yeah, that pizza's sitting in a funny place. They're radio frequency ID chips. They're small chips that are implanted in the badges that they can use as taps, basically, and you run it by a sensor and can tell when you entered a convention, when you exited a convention. It can tell you where your guests are so you can find them in easy course, which will stop a lot of guests of honor from sneaking around like they do.
Oh.
And they will also be able to tell who's been in and out at what time. So they can actually start looking for individuals that cause trouble instead of saying, what were they dressed up like? There's 18 Doctor Who's. Which one did it?
Well, they could also be good for finding people that get lost, especially
Absolutely.
like younger people.
Yeah. At the same time, this could also be helpful because if they connect this with an app for convention users, that means you could find
thinking that.
Yeah, you could find your friends without making 18 phone calls in a stressed out building where everyone's sucking down the cellular.
Yeah.
Not to mention, it'll be awesome for the convention holders themselves to get some actual numbers on. Okay, who went here at this time? Who went here at this time? What was the most popular? So on and so forth. Without having to do head counts and everything else, they can just record all that information and really focus on things that are popular, possibly work on things that weren't as popular, and kind of lay out some better plans as far as like, okay, if we have all this many people showing up here, then we need to give this place a bigger room, so on and so forth.
Yeah, that could also add one other headache, because you can imagine there will be those guests that will use this app and just say, I'm over here, come find me, and there's waves of people moving across the convention. You know, Bryan Cranston's hiding out over here! Quick, get him!
Someone will use it to stalk someone.
Oh, yeah.
Hackers.
They prefer cyber activists.
Well, I was poking a little bit of fun with V earlier regarding her cell phone. There was proof this week that we are cell phone zombies. An armed assailant was on a train and waved a gun around, but nobody noticed because they were too busy with their phones and their tablets.
Nobody noticed it until he shot a guy in the back of the head.
Exactly. We have become so desensitized to our outer environments, nobody noticed that there was some psychopath stomping around with a gun.
pulled it out, pointed it at people, put it back.
Yeah,
Even scratched his face with the gun, with his gun hand, so forth. Yeah, actually, in the same article, they pointed out that people that have their electronic devices stolen most often cannot provide any useful information to people trying to recover it because they were so absorbed into it. When somebody came and snatched it, it's like, hey.
Yeah, and this didn't happen in some third world hole. This happened in the Bay Area.
Yeah, San Francisco.
Yeah, isn't that kind of odd to think about?
It's frustrating.
We can be so blind to stupid things. Do you guys remember we were talking about Mighty Number 9 a couple weeks ago?
Yep.
The game that was kickstarted by Keiji Inafune to be the spiritual successor to Mega Man?
Uh-huh.
I don't know if this is good or bad news. Inafune may let Capcom publish his game.
Huh.
What?
Probably be really good news for Capcom.
Well, they stepped forward, and he said he would let them publish the game if they agreed to his conditions. His quote was, "I would hear their terms. If they had the best terms, I would go with Capcom. There's no reason not to publish with Capcom, and I certainly don't feel like there's a reason that I have to publish with Capcom. Literally, it would be a very cut-and-dried business negotiation. If they tried the best, or if they had the best terms, the logical businessman in me would say, yes, let's go with them," unquote. I don't have a problem with that myself. The thing I wonder, though, is that there's a lot of people who love Kickstarter because it is the ability to start projects without a lot of corporate interference. In this case, they didn't just start his project, they overfunded it by 4 times, and yet he still may go with this publisher. Does that mean he's going to return some of that money?
Well, I suppose it depends on if he was planning on using that money to pay for a publishing company, or if he was planning on doing it all on his own. If he was going to be looking for a publishing company anyway, then that would be where Capcom or other people could vie for his business.
Yeah, I just think there may be some pushback on this, because people have funny reactions when the nature of something changes, even if it's not going to change the product.
Yeah, that's true.
You might be just looking at Capcom as this way to distribute the product.
It could be. I mean, arguably, more people will pick it up simply because it has Capcom's name on it. They may not have done wonderful money lately, but they still have a fairly good reputation.
Mm-hmm. Speaking of which, all Capcom games are on sale on Steam today for their anniversary.
Yeah. Oh, remember when we talked about Valve that was going to have a major announcement? A lot of people thought it was a console, turned out to be a controller.
Right.
Uh-huh.
There's more to this.
Uh-oh.
Valve is shipping a prototype version of what they call the Steam Machine later this year to 300 beta testers.
So a brass?
Your console after all.
It is a console. It'll have an NVIDIA GTX 660 all the way through to Titan, anywhere between an Intel i3 CPU and an i7 at 4770. All prototypes will come with 3 gigabytes of DDR5 RAM, 1 terabyte or 8 gig hybrid SSHD for storage, a 450 watt battery, and this thing is only going to be 12 inches by 12.4 inches by 2.9 inches.
Yeah, well, with solid state, it definitely wouldn't need to worry about that.
Yeah, but it is a battery, though. There's no external power supply, probably to keep people from overplaying the machines. Which doesn't quite jive with me, but I guess I just want people to stress test these things rather than endurance test.
True.
So they're not showing it yet, but this is official word that they are sending it to 300 folks. I don't know what the beta test criteria was, but apparently this thing may not be cheap. Somebody put up as an example from Engadget.com that an XI3 modestly powerful piston gaming PC has a $1,000 price tag. On the low end, the NVIDIA GPU that they're using for the Steam machine costs around $200 by itself. The high-end Titan comes in at about $1,000. Makes me wonder if it's really useful in doing this, because you could build a high-end machine that will run all Steam games for this.
Right.
And at the same time, it's like Steve said, most video cards come with ports, so you can plug it into a large TV, so there's really not much else for you to do.
Especially those high-end ones.
Yeah, but this could be like consoles. I mean, most consoles these days are sold at a loss, so they can get you in with the games and sell more licenses to gaming companies. I don't know.
I'm not really interested in it, but that's because I have a really nice computer, so...
You like shrinking your hard drive?
I Actually, my hard drive is my least good part of my computer, but...
Ooh! She likes the soft state.
But, yeah, I don't know. I mean, going for that kind of advanced computer hardware, yeah, to make a pure gaming console, I mean, that's kind of the benefit. I'm on my computer so much that when I play my games, I can play my games, but then when I'm done, then I can get on the internet and so on and so forth, and I kind of like that flexibility.
Yeah.
That's kind of why I like my computer, but
Well,
if you're getting all this high-end computer equipment and whatnot, and then all you're going to be able to do is play games on it, that will kind of suck.
Well, it'll have the Steam tag on it and Valve's name. It'll probably sell regardless of what we think.
Yeah, true.
2014, we'll see the first episode of the new series Star Wars Rebels. It's the newest venture from Lucasfilm's animation. According to an early press release by Disney, this will have both the Jedi and the Force in it. It's supposed to take place between the live-action films of Episode 3 and Episode 4. So basically, it's when Darth Vader is finishing wiping out Jedi that weren't killed at the end of Episode 3.
So, yeah, feel good all around.
Yeah. Maybe this will tell us the story of how Tag and Bait grew up and became rebels. No?
Maybe.
I tried. Square Enix's new CEO, who took over from the last guy due to financial problems, he says the company needs to make some changes quickly. His name is Yosuke Matsuda. His quotes kind of double back on themselves. The first one is, quote, "Up until now, the profit of home console games has been decided by price times number sold. Development and sales were divided, and the game developers only needed to concentrate on their work. That's where the strength of our company laid within," unquote. I can agree with that. It's a second quote that gets a little odd. Quote, "At the very beginning, game business started out with how can we get people to insert coins? Presently, online games are prosperous, which again has a theme of how can we charge the people? As developers and sales have become inseparable, and devices they can be played has spread vastly. It's truly a paradigm shift," unquote. This sounds like the same bullshit as to how Square Enix got themselves into the mobile gaming platform above consoles. It sounds like they're worried more about microtransactions than they are putting out quality product.
Yeah, but again, they're focusing on revenue rather than quality.
Yeah, but I mean, you would think the way to become a revenue-rich gaming company would be to put out stuff that people want to play, which has been their Achilles' heel as of late. They've had much fewer success than they've had failures lately. Final Fantasy XIV has just turned around, and they can say all they want that they fixed the problems. They didn't fix the problems. They created a brand new game and gave it the same label.
Well, if that's what it took to fix it, I guess.
It's not fixing. They made another one. It's like when they were making another Final Fantasy and they just said, "Oh, by the way, this is Final Fantasy 13-3." Fucking people. There was a 3D film ruling that may mean something for Disney. The 3D technology they were using, apparently the problem is that when they were upconverting their movies, they were using a patent that I guess according to the courts, may already been owned by another company.
Oops.
Ooh, that's not good.
Yeah, sorry, I nearly coughed something. RealD? You know, that's the name that you see on a lot of movies that are put out in any form of 3D lately.
Mm-hmm.
A Delaware judge ruled that the studio cannot prohibit RealD from acquiring patents related to the process of transforming 2D movies to 3D in post-production. In other words, all those RealD movies that they used to turn some of their movies into 3D were actually owned by the process itself was actually owned by RealD. So they may owe a lot of money to this company upcoming, and it may also mean that they have to increase their production costs for new movies in this form if they don't actually film them in 3D.
Well, maybe they should just start filming in 3D.
Yeah. 3D is kind of on the decline lately. They say that Gravity, with its quality, may actually bring 3D back into some prominence. It goes back to the Square Enix thing. If you stop making crap, then your technology will mean more.
Yeah.
But following the ruling, Disney is likely to look for a new agreement with RealD rather than face new patent lawsuits, because apparently the stuff that's out there weren't the last movies they used this technique on. Go figure.
Yeah.
And in further technology news, we discuss occasionally football in the show. There is actually a smart cap that has been created that can measure concussions people can wear underneath their helmets.
Ooh.
It's actually out in the world already. Not a lot of NFL players use it yet, but it's getting more prominent in youth leagues. It costs $150 per cap, but it can actually tell you how likely it is that somebody who just sustained a head hit suffered a concussion.
$150. They damn well better start getting the NFL players to use them.
Well, you know, in the way I see it, $150 now, even if it's a full-blown adult rather than a kid, can net you millions later based on the length of time you're now able to play without major injury. It can add consistent, reliable, actionable impact data, sensors that are directly coupled to the head, not the helmet or a chin strap, to reflect direct accelerations that the head experiences. It can be worn with and without a helmet in multiple activities and sports. So this could be added to things like lacrosse or soccer, potentially. It's easy to use and comfortable to wear, and it logs a total number of impacts recorded. This thing can tell you a lot.
Yeah. Not to mention, I mean, one of the things that most harms people that receive a concussion is when it isn't diagnosed and isn't treated quickly. So...
Right, but I mean, this has applications not just in football, lacrosse, soccer, boxing, MMA. This can save a lot of people's golden years.
Yeah.
And there are 6 super fast alien planets that may be skimming the surface of their stars. By using the Kepler Observatory, scientists have found 6 planetary candidates with orbital periods of less than 12 hours. Some orbit stars in a mere 4 hours. V, I think I know where you want to put your summer home.
No thanks.
But most of these planets are not exactly places you can put down roots. They're generally gas giants, exoplanets. They're highly unstable.
So they're probably ones that either used to be stars or might become stars.
Well, it could just be that these are expanding stars that turned red, so they slowly ate their solar systems.
That's true, too.
And The Walking Dead, they restart this Sunday with a new season. I believe it's the 4th. Rolling Stone had an article on them, and it had 5 things that apparently people didn't actually know about the series. The first one is Norman Reedus, who plays Daryl Dixon in the series. He has some serious stalkers. Quote, "I've been followed home over half a dozen times. I've had somebody break into my backyard," unquote.
Yep.
Well, I
read that article.
Yeah. Number 2, the creator, Robert Kirkman, he doesn't think The Walking Dead is depressing. Quote, "A lot of people think the show is bleak and depressing, but I can see where it's going in the next 10 years, and I think about it optimistically. Maybe it's going to make us better people by the end of it," unquote. Being eaten doesn't make you better people. Number 3, you never got to see how Atlanta was overrun with walkers, but you were supposed to. Quote, "It was going to be like Black Hawk Down, following an Army Ranger unit as the city succumbs to the zombie plague. That was thrown out due to cost," unquote.
That makes sense.
That's unfortunate. Maybe he can do a spin-off with it.
Maybe they'll put that in the spin-off. There is a spin-off series coming that has a brand new story.
Right.
Number 4, the executive producer and special effects master, Greg Nicotero, he has a zombie plan. Quote, "As the show progresses, the zombies are decaying more and more. We always do the rotted away lips because I've done research in terms of cadavers and corpses, and when the skin tightens, it pulls away," unquote. I always love it when there's proof that somebody understands what the frick they're doing. And item number 5, when the actor who played Shane, John Bernthal, was killed off in Season 2, everyone cried. Quote, "At the end of the night, the entire cast just held each other. I ain't gonna bullshit you, I was crying my eyes out. I told them, stay strong, keep squeezing all the bullshit out of this thing," unquote.
He dies? I'm gonna watch more now.
Posthumous spoilers.
I really didn't like him.
She wants to see him get eaten. Scarlett Johansson was once again crowned sexiest woman alive by Esquire. There's not a heck of a lot of story I can add to that. I only add that because, obviously, with her role as a Scarlet Witch, Jesus Christ, the Black Widow in at least 2 movies upcoming, you know, we're going to see more and more of her, obviously.
I'm fine with that.
Yeah, I can't say she didn't deserve it. I mean, holy shit. The cover alone is just, wow. And I'm going to end it there because I can't say anything better than that. In further movie news, the Fantastic Four has a casting update.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
They're
there's
through with
several.
it.
Let's see.
This
For
is who I think you're talking about.
well, they have not finalized the cast. They're bringing up candidates for the cast. Kit Harington from Game of Thrones and Jack O'Connell from 300 Rise of an Empire up for the role of Mr. Fantastic. Miles Teller is also in contention for that role. For the role of Susan Storm, there's 3 actors' names here: Cerise Ronan, Kate Mara, and Margot Robbie. I don't know any of them.
Neither do I. I know Kit Harington.
Yeah, nobody's been mentioned as far as The Thing, but one actor, Michael B. Jordan, has been likely to play Johnny Storm. That's kind of a confusing one to me, because you know how people are when they want things to stay relatively close to the comic books? Michael B. Jordan to play Johnny Storm would be kind of jarring. He's a black man. You know, personally, I think Johnny Storm is black. That'd be an interesting juxtaposition and pretty nifty to look at, but there's always a group of people out there that scream bloody murder when you change the race of any character.
Yeah,
Well, my sole issue with that is Johnny and Susan are brother and sister, so
Yeah, that was my thought as well.
that's the thing. It's like, I want Johnny Storm to be black if Susan Storm is going to be white, Asian, or other.
All I can say is, concerning my own situation, must be by marriage.
Yeah.
My opinion is that as long as changing the race doesn't cause any continuity errors, such as the brother-sister thing you just mentioned, it's fine. Like Nick Fury, I don't think had anything like that.
I
right?
really had no issues with Nick Fury all of a sudden being black, whatever.
Well, it's a reboot,
Yeah, it
so
makes sense.
this whole thing is a reboot, so there technically is 0 continuity errors to be had.
Ah.
So
But
they might not be brother and sister.
Right, but there's an added wrinkle to this. No decision has been made on any actors to play any roles, and the reason why is because Fox still has not greenlit an official script to this fucking movie.
That's a little awkward.
I know. Why are you talking so much about casting and narrowing it down if you're not sure who's going to do what? Is this like Lost? Everyone's going to start playing, and then they'll tell us later what the story is?
I certainly hope not.
Yeah, fucking idiots. And I have a piece of art that I'm going to add. Some concept art was released that apparently in Spider-Man 2 there was going to be a black cat.
Was the rumor was to why they had so many female leads.
Yeah, one was apparently written into the second film, but was removed before they started shooting. And the art is actually kind of interesting. It has no fur. You can't see the front of the outfit, so I don't know how much gratuitous cleavage it has, but it looks like they had a really good concept put together. And in news that I'm sure is going to make comic book fans really happy, today at New York Comic-Con, it was announced that a new Batman series is starting called Batman Eternal. It's a weekly series. It's going to come out every week. As if DC doesn't have already like 10 Batman books. But there is a wrinkle that's going to make this really popular. In this series, Stephanie Brown is finally being brought into the New 52.
Oh.
Ooh.
I sense V's confusion. Stephanie Brown, in the original continuity of DC, was the only female Robin ever.
Ah.
So she's been sought after by comic fans because they thought it was a big deal. When this character first came in, she was not long after she was made Robin in a storyline, she was killed. But whereas other Robins had posthumous shrines built in the Batcave with their costumes, a lot of fans were upset because they noticed that she never got one of those shrines. Turns out that DC backed off this later by writing out that she didn't actually die. She had faked her own death. She was brought back and eventually turned into Batgirl. So she was this very prominent female character that, since DC rebooted, has been unheard from. But at least now, this character is coming back. And this is one of the few I would like to hear from.
Yeah, I'm looking into it.
Yeah, except she's not being brought back as as Batgirl or Robin. She's being brought back as her original character, a Spoiler.
That's fine.
It's good they're finally acknowledging this character exists, but you can bet there's going to be, like we said, an idiotic fan cry of why isn't she Robin already?
I don't care. She was wrong for like a brief brief stint.
Don't yell at me. I don't get it either. Also in movie news, Rocket Raccoon for Guardians of the Galaxy, he's not going to have a Cockney accent. Most versions of this character have him with some kind of aggressively British accent. For Bradley Cooper playing him in the movie, they're not going to go that far. I like the Cockney accent in most versions of the character, although I must admit it doesn't make much sense for him to have it, considering he's a genetically altered raccoon. I don't think they have those in the British Isles. So
okay, also, I thought he was just naturally like that as a race.
Yeah, unless they... originally he was from another dimension, but they've retconned him so that he's a genetically altered raccoon. Genetically and mechanically. So, yeah, unless they fed him massive amounts of Guinness when they were rebuilding him, I guess it makes sense that he would have whatever he's heard. Oh, well.
So, does that mean if they... never mind.
I don't know. I mean, I don't know if he's going to yell Alpha Michael Foxtrot in the middle of it or something.
You know, as long as he's got the attitude we know him to have, it should be fine.
Yeah. I can deal. And S.H.I.E.L.D., their third episode, from the first episode to the second, there was a 30% drop in rating, so there was some worry. Apparently, episode 3 picked up some steam.
Oh.
And they actually beat NCIS in the coveted 18 to 49 ratings.
Nice.
Yeah.
It was only barely...
To be honest, I really look at it, that second show, honestly... That was NCIS's send-off to Ziva, and that was not going to get beat. So,
yeah.
Well,
I was bored with that episode.
Which
show?
The send-off for Ziva.
I don't know.
I haven't watched it yet.
I don't watch it. But my thing is, it's still early on in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., so there's going to be a lot of characterization that needs to be done in short order. There's going to be a lot of Talking Heads episodes simply because you still have to learn a lot about these characters to make them relatable. But
I think it's going to be one of those things when you go back and watch, then it makes more sense.
Well, there's a few things. First of all, the third episode of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., they introduced the origin to their first supervillain.
Yep.
A character that's known in Marvel Comics as Graviton with the ability to manipulate gravity. Myself, after watching the episode and talking it over with my wife, my theory is throughout this season of like 22 episodes, they're probably going to meet more and more, low-grade superhumans. Not Thor or Hulk class, but just a few guys who can run themselves, and then probably by the end, Graviton's going to escape, and then you need to recall all these people to help you. That's my theory. That sounds like Joss Whedon to me.
Yeah,
it makes sense, too, because Graviton, he doesn't do kids' gloves, so...
Yeah, but the other thing was, as we just said, there's 22 episodes in this season. ABC's picked up all of them.
Nice.
It's a full season pickup, and apparently they're already negotiating for next season.
Awesome.
Actually, in the vein of this, in the next episode, they're bringing in Titus Welliver. He's been in Lost, and this is kind of a big deal because he was actually in a Marvel one-shot called Item 47 as Agent Blake. They're bringing that character into the episode.
Huh.
So they're actually creating continuity within the TV series already. And in Item 47, he had a partner, but he mentioned in the dialogue of that special that he followed Agent Coulson, or he worked with Agent Coulson previously. So they have a natural Bible they're working with.
Nice.
Well, they should, but...
Yeah. And we also found out this week that George Lucas is a liar. He said before that he had no interest in making Star Wars sequels.
Yeah,
apparently, LucasArts was working on Star Wars Episode 7 before they sold the company to Disney.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I always assumed that reaction was more of him being butthurt than actually no interest.
Well, the thing is, usually stuff like this you have to take with a grain of salt because it comes with a rumor mill, and a lot of it is filtered through fans who have wishes. In this case, the source of this story was George Lucas' son, Jet. The man just can't let it go. And also in this vein, Harrison Ford is undecided on appearing in Star Wars Episode 7. He has a few things that are kind of conflicting because they want to start shooting soon, but Ford really doesn't want to talk about this thing until he's done promoting Ender's Game, which comes out in November. He doesn't want the Star Wars talk to overplay something else he's already worked on.
That's understandable, and I do hope, personally, that Ender's Game goes well.
I I have my curiosities, but actually, yeah, I think this is the best movie he could have made, because any talk of Star Wars would drown out this sci-fi movie that looks like a lot of people put a lot of work into.
Yeah, plus it's off of an existing series as well, so...
Well, they even had a standalone hangar to show the trailer outside Comic-Con. So, if you put that much money into that, you want it to succeed. One of my least favorite comic artists, Rob Liefeld, he put together a cover for Transformers Dark Cybertron #1, and as soon as I saw it, it looked really familiar, and before people even said it, I could mark it as his first comic cover when he did New Mutants 87, the first appearance of Cable. According to him, it wasn't his idea to do it this way. It was the idea of the Virginia Comic-Con people who asked him to do this homage cover. But at the same time, even though it's been about 20 years since he's done that, his art style has not really improved. If you take a look at the picture, Optimus Prime's palm is so big, I don't know how he works his fingers. I will leave it at that, because there's nothing else I can say about how much this pisses me off. News out of New York Comic-Con, the $6 Million Man's getting a Season 6 comic. He's getting the same treatment as Buffy and Firefly. They're getting a TV continuation in comic book form.
Interesting.
Yeah, complete with a look-alike of Lee Majors and a few other things. I just wonder if by this time he's going to start complaining about how little money $6 million is to put into his bionics. Damn inflation. And also at a New York Comic-Con, for the first time in a long time, Red Sonja and the Conan series are going to cross over.
Interesting.
Yeah, thematically and with story, they should have crossed over a lot, but the problem is that the two series right now are owned by different companies, Dynamite and Dark Horse. So the fact that they're getting this together, as well as using notable writers like Brian Wood and Gail Simone, this could turn into a really big deal. And that's not the only thing that's returning to comics. Terminator is getting a new comic book. It's called Terminator Enemy of My Enemy. The original T-800 is coming in... He's gone back in time to 1 year after the original Terminator movie ended. The storyline is a little different because at this point, there's no Kyle Reese. In other words, there's no one who appeared with him warning people of the danger of this robot from the future. It is just this thing causing mass havoc. That is kind of different. Usually when these Terminators are involved, somebody knows what's going on.
Yeah, plus if they... Well, it's happening afterwards, so Kyle Reese did come. It's just another one's showing up.
Yeah, but he's dead, and there's no Sarah Connor or anything. It has a different target this time.
Okay, well, yeah, then it's really different.
Yeah. Oh, and, Steve, do you remember way back in the, 8th or 9th episode of this show, we talked about how the all-new X-Men, the Time Travelers from the past, the original 5 were getting new costumes?
Right.
Seen them.
Yeah, they debuted at New York Comic-Con yesterday.
Yeah, Jesse was telling me.
I'm not quite sure what to make of them. I mean, they all carry the same general pattern, but they have different colors depending on the wearer, with the exception of the Naked Iceman.
It almost reminds me of a bit of Tron, to be honest.
A little. It strikes me as similar to something else, like Bionic 6 or something.
Bionic 6! We're all together! We fight for right! Bionic 6!
They're not
Now
bad.
I'm going to have that theme song stuck in my head. Great.
Congratulations. Yeah, I don't have anything bad to say about it. It's just not what I expected. But as long as the writing's solid, I don't give a shit.
True.
The writing in this series has been the best so far. But also in this panel where they debuted that, a lot of news came out about the X-Men's future. Such as in Wolverine and the X-Men, they'll be dealing war with S.H.I.E.L.D. and trying to draw the X-Men back into the larger Marvel Universe. In a future issue of All New X-Men... Wow.
Try again.
I choked on my own ego. In a future episode of All New X-Men, there's a cover where X-23 is kissing a mystery man. They blacked out the silhouette. They don't want to spoil who it is yet. Uncanny X-Men, Cyclops' crew will be dealing with the new explosion of Inhumans. Wolverine is doing stuff. We all knew that. Deadpool, they're finally going to explain where his little white and yellow inner narrative boxes have gone.
Oh, okay. I was kind of wondering about that since all of his text was yellow.
Well, how about this? There's another X crossover coming, except this one is called Vendetta. Uncanny X-Force and Cable's X-Force are going to butt heads. Basically, Cable wants to understand what the frick these imposters are using his X-Force name for. And probably the weirdest bit of news was that the Thunderbolts are getting a new member. The Thunderbolts are currently a bunch of mercenaries being run by the Red Hulk that includes the Punisher, Elektra, and Deadpool. They're going to run into a magical threat, and apparently their new member is going to be the one they bring in to deal with it. Johnny Blaze.
Really?
Yeah, a bunch of pent-up mercenaries now have to deal with the Ghost Rider.
Wait, he's a Ghost Rider again?
Yes. Oh, and all new X-Men are crossing over with, believe it or not, the Guardians of the Galaxy.
Saw that.
Yeah. It had to do with a couple of those teasers that said Judgment and Trial. This crossover is the trial of Jean Grey.
Ooh.
Oh.
Yeah, want to take a guess what she's on trial for? Planet eating.
And then the fact that they've added Angela to the roster of the Guardians of the Galaxy.
Yeah, she's basically taking over Iron Man slot, which you can argue is a hell of an upgrade for them.
Yeah.
And the last of the surprises in this particular panel was that there's an all-new X Factor series coming. Unfortunately, it doesn't involve most of the fan-favorite characters from the previous series. But it is still being written by Peter David. Apparently, the Marvel equivalent of Google has enough money that they want to give back to the world, and they put together a superhero team that includes Gambit, Polaris, and Quicksilver.
Huh?
They bought the name of X Factor from Jamie Madrox, basically.
Okay.
And there's a new Avengers series coming out called Avengers World, which is going to be more adventures of this hyper team that they've put together. As if they need to get involved in more. Let's see. And, here's something else that came out of New York Comic Con. They were tweeting from attendees' accounts without permission.
What?
Part of registering for New York Comic Con, and this is the convention where they're using those RFID chips, they had a code in the back that would allow you to connect your RFID chip to your Facebook account or your Twitter account, anything you gave it. Part of what these chips didn't just track your location, tell people where you're in the convention center. It actually posted things to the point of so much pop culture to digest. Can't handle the awesome. Or, New York Comic Con is the best 4 days of my year. It's actually posting and lauding itself on its attendees' accounts.
No.
Yeah. They sent out an apology and they disconnected the system, but you can argue that damage is done.
Yeah.
And that's just the few things that people know about. You can bet that there's a bunch of people wandering around, probably largely disconnected from their computers, that won't know about it till after they're done.
Yeah.
There's a comic coming out that V would love to read. It's called Death Sentence. It is not a superhero book. Basically, the premise is, what if superpowers were a sexually transmitted disease and fatal?
Right. That sounds interesting.
Yeah, basically normal people have unprotected sex, receive superpowers, and they have a 6-month death clock basically installed.
Okay,
So
that's going to be a lot of villains.
Yeah, so what do you do with your time?
Go out and have more sex?
I would imagine so. I guess the only difference is, yeah, whether or not you're stuck to the side of a building, I suppose. And supposedly coming out of Latino Review, which is usually pretty reliable, is a leaked page from the Batman Superman movie, which may reveal a cameo. Let me just read it. Living between the ticks of seconds, a car chase in progress, 2 gangbangers in an Escalade fire Tech 9s at the cops behind them. Their guns disappear. Escalade pulled over, flipped over. The bangers handcuffed, cops wondering how. That's me. Back to Central Square, frozen in time, the girder in suspended animation freefall, about to hit people, staring, scared. Shift back to real time as a cyclone coils beneath it, countering gravity's force, catching it, laying to rest safely on the ground. I'm an eye blink, a sunburst. Lightning cracks above, slow and majestic. A flash. Only now do we see the man in the center at all lit by the lightning. Any guesses?
Nope. Clueless.
You don't do sarcasm
Make these
well.
things easier.
Okay, so we'll just move on then. Fables creator Bill Willingham, he's putting up a new series called Legendary, and that's spelled with Legenderry. He calls it steam pulp. It's steampunk as you can imagine, but this one is a little bit different because it's taking most of Dynamite's existing line and reimagining them in the form of steampunk, which includes Zorro, Vampirella, the Green Hornet, and other characters in their line.
A steampunked Zorro.
Yeah, Flash Gordon, too. And the $1 Million Man. Or, excuse me, the $6 Million Man. Not Ted DiBiase, Steve Austin. But, it's a different telling of different characters. This could be worth reading. It has my curiosity, I will say that much at the very least.
Yeah.
And in What the Fuck news, as we usually have these stories, there were 89 high schoolers in Japan that were arrested for selling their underwear online.
Okay.
Apparently, this is a crackdown by the police to stop new forms of pseudo-prostitution that has been propagated by the internet to stop girls from either selling their underwear online or selling their services as escorts. And I don't necessarily mean sexual, but at least receiving money for dating.
Right.
Yep. That doesn't surprise me, actually.
I know, but 89 high schoolers, there's got to be better uses of time.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm kind of surprised it was only high schoolers.
Well, I may have that wrong. They call them JKs. I'm still a little unfamiliar as to what exactly that is. I know they're schoolgirls. They're underage girls, obviously. I don't know if that's middle or high school. But at the same time, I mean, for frick's sake, if they're not actually giving sex, I don't know necessarily what the problem is. I don't understand why you would buy someone's used underwear, but it's not my country.
Yeah, I don't understand the motivations for a lot of those things either.
Yeah.
I'm honestly surprised they haven't made a vending machine for it.
I think there are vending machines for it, unfortunately. And the director of Bridesmaids, Paul Feig, he joins the list of directors, including Joss Whedon, who had different pitches for a Wonder Woman movie. Although I think Feig's film probably would not have gotten through. His involved a Wonder Woman who, quote, keeps hitting the glass ceiling of the superhero world. Conceived as a lighter action comedy, this Princess Diana of Themyscira has to contend with male heroes like Batman and Superman, who are perhaps not as forward-thinking in regards to their female counterpart as they should be. I think the word jerks might have come up. Feig compared this Wonder Woman to the suffragist Cicely Hamilton, who wrote the 1908 feminist play Diana of Dobson's. We've had the discussion how you need major superheroines on the screen just for, not the sake of equality so much as a different side of the story. And to take DC's biggest male heroine and turn her into a quasi-action comedy joke is not the proper way to go.
Yeah.
Not to mention, I mean, essentially your rallying cry would be what, feminists unite?
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's just, I realize I'm not a general DC fan, but whenever I think of the big three of Wonder Woman, Batman, and Superman, Wonder Woman's always struck me as the serious one. The one who is most likely to ram a sword between someone's eyes because it's the quickest means to an end.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. And I don't even know
Truthfully,
DC.
yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah, treating this as a comedy, there would be anger, and in my case, just regular disappointment.
Gonna piss off someone.
But, you know what? V is going to be she's going to be happy again. Bob Orsai is reportedly talking to CBS about a brand new Star Trek TV series.
Oh yeah, I read about that too.
He wants to bring it back to TV with CBS, and CBS arguably is looking for a hit now, especially since genre shows like Sleepy Hollow and Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. have hit TV in a big way that probably hasn't been seen since the first season of Heroes. So apparently CBS is very open to this idea right now. The only question is whether or not it would be the old continuity, the Next Generation continuity, or the alternate continuity.
Probably alternate.
I would hope for alternate.
Yeah.
I would hope they would write something brand new, though. If they go alternate, I don't want to see a time jump into Next Generation era immediately. I want something new.
I want to see the new continuity because it allows them the chance to rewrite a few things that were broken since the old continuity spanned several decades. Things got broken.
Yeah.
I'd even be willing to go so far as don't focus on the Federation.
Possibly. My only hope is that since this would be a CBS show, if everybody signs, that the cast of The Big Bang Theory is allowed nowhere near it.
Yes, please.
I also found a link on IO9 of futuristic city wallpapers that people can check out. There were several in here that were beautiful. My personal favorite was called Roads Not Needed by Stasek Merrick from Architecture and Landscape Digital Art Challenge by NVIDIA. Gorgeous stuff. And I think that's what we have right now. We decided to read Battle of the Atom, the current event that takes 4 X-books and is crossing them over. We discussed last week how I think out of all the events currently running, Infinity, Forever Evil, and Battle of the Atom, this is by far the most entertaining to me.
I agree.
I have not read either of the other 2, but yeah, this one, I'm enjoying the hell out of it.
Well, I mean, I'm an X-Men fan, so obviously I skew a little bit. But this has been the only series out of all of them that has been easy to jump into and has a very good idea of the voices of the characters so far. I mean, we're starting out with a premise, basically, that X-Men from the future have come back to tell the X-Men of the present to send the original 5 who've been time-traveling home. And since they came in, this thing did start very slowly.
Yeah.
It didn't start with a bang, it didn't start with an explosion, and suddenly there's a bunch of naked X-Men demanding boots and motorcycles. It actually seemed to all stem from different arguments about how frustrated the original 5 are in their various positions as to where things are going and how their world still... They're not necessarily fixing anything from what they're doing is a problem. They're responding to threats. I mean, this new mutant that they created in the first issue, Animax, interesting, but they're still having issues because they realized when young Cyclops nearly died how close their reality can come to undoing in a moment.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, what did you guys think of the first issue? Because I thought it was a good establishment to bring readers up to speed as to where these characters are if they haven't read anything prior.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it did a good job of that.
I wasn't too confused, but then again, I read a few things prior. But.
Yeah, but V, your opinion and stuff like this is relatively important in my opinion, simply because you are a fresh set of eyes. You are the person who's come into this relatively cold and gives us an honest opinion from people who may have never read.
It didn't start out with just... Sorry, I didn't mean to...
That's okay.
It didn't just start out in the action. It sort of had a slow start and built up a bit, which helped, pick out
Establish everything.
different characters. Yeah, like who does what and who thinks what. Food fight! That was great. That was actually pretty great.
That's been one of the things that's been truly wonderful about the run of All New X-Men is that the writer in that, and I think that's Brian Michael Bendis himself, he has a great concept of the different ages of characters and has them act appropriately. His teenagers are juvenile, his kids are rambunctious, and his adults are so tired of everything.
Which is good. I've been exposed to comics and other things where the teenagers are just like normal people.
Yes. It can be a little frustrating. But, I mean, the first issue when young Cyclops took that blast to the back, which was a bit of a funny homage considering the way he posed when he took that. Did anyone notice he was the exact same pose that Dark Phoenix took when she died?
No, I
don't
not paid attention to that.
Yeah, if you guys find a picture and put it up on a side-by-side, you'll notice the exact pose that Dark Phoenix took when she was blasted by a laser at the end of that story arc.
Huh.
The more you know.
Yeah.
But then reality was slowly unraveling until Triage managed to bring young Cyclops back to life.
And that whole event managed to freak him out, and he was the most stable one out of the whole bunch.
I know, but I just love Cyclops' reaction, the old Cyclops' reaction of, what just happened?
Yeah. Seriously, someone tell me
Seriously, what just happened?
Yeah. But it also showed the difference in their maturity levels when just about every youngster nearly flipped out, and every veteran X-Man on the field, Shadowcat, Cyclops, Emma Frost, they all treated it like another day at the cooler.
You're like, oh, that happened. Well, it's to be expected.
And then you have the crew of future X-Men that come in that includes Xavier's grandson, Deadpool, severely mutated Beast, and somebody in a Zorn mask.
I only really recognized Beast.
That's kind of purposeful. The only one that would have been recognizable off the bat besides Beast would have been
Deadpool?
Kate Pryde.
I didn't recognize her. I was suspecting the guy in red was Deadpool.
Well, if you read anything involving either Days of Futures Past or Rachel Summers, that character is referenced a lot. You know, the one that probably threw everybody was Molly Hayes on the end.
Oh, that giant woman there?
Yeah, she's a character from The Runaways. In that series, she's generally depicted as about 10 years old.
Yep.
She's one of your standard invulnerable type mutants.
That grows big.
Grew well, I guess you could say.
Oh, I thought her powers actually involved growth.
No.
No,
Okay.
This is her from the future, so obviously she's gone from 10 to full grown.
I understood that, but I thought that her actual 10-year-old self grew.
No, her ideal call sign is Power Princess, so you could guess what she does.
Yeah.
Glitter?
Glitter. Jesus Christ. But I thought in the next issue, when the future X-Men are making their case for sending them home and they're talking, when Wolverine freaked out and started stabbing at people, I admit I didn't catch on as to what exactly happened there until the dialogue caught up to me.
I noticed something, but at the same time, it was more due to the fact that in the panels following, he was like, "Wait, no, that wasn't me."
I know. It turns out young Jean Grey was using him like a puppet to to create a distraction while they made their escape, which was brilliant but scary.
Yeah.
But one of the real gems of the second issue was the current and young Icemen responding to their future counterpart. When they saw the Ice Hulk, the exact same pose, the exact same expression. You know, apparently Bobby Drake does very well throughout time. He continues living and everything, but he still can't get it through his head that he could actually get better, it seems.
That's probably one of the things that allows them to survive.
More or less, he is... When you can transmute yourself to living ice and reconstitute yourself from water, you generally have a pretty good
Survival rate.
survivability.
Yeah.
Yes.
Fair enough.
But when Molly Hayes reintroduced herself to Wolverine, I nearly laughed myself stupid
Yeah.
because he said he didn't know her. You know, the man with the nose that recognizes everything can't recognize the girl. And he said,
That 6 times.
Yeah.
Still not getting it.
I don't know you, Molly Hayes. I still don't know who you are. When I was a kid, I was one of the Runaways. We've met at least 6 times. Nothing.
Nope.
Of course, before that, when Deadpool reintroduced himself to Wolverine, it was better because he immediately put his arm around him and tried to kiss him. I missed you so much!
Can I just say that now, talking about this again, having gotten to the most recent episode, how just kind of ew that whole scene between Kate Pryde and Wolverine is.
Yeah.
Oh.
Live with that image.
Yeah.
Why you?
Well, because it's kind of hard to tell. It looks
We'll
like
get to that when we get there.
Well, it looks like she may have tackled him and kissed him. We have to explain this because she's not going to get it. She hasn't read that far ahead. Basically, Kate Pryde is not Kate Pryde. It's Wolverine and Mystique's son in disguise.
Yeah. Mystique's shape-shifting abilities, Wolverine's bone claws.
And assuming they didn't kiss, they at least pressed up body to body, which is really creepy considering who that really is in that skin.
Hey, Dad.
Gotcha.
Nice
Yeah.
to see you. Have some tongue.
Yeah. Wow, Kate, you got a roll of Tums in there? What is that? But I digress because that's hurting me mentally. This is another case. This issue between Immoman's art and Bendis' writing, I loved how they backed up to the point just before or just after they figured out that Jean Grey was messing with Wolverine and made him go physically nuts. How they backed up and showed the conversation that happened within the conversation.
Mm.
I like how they do that because it plays out more like a good movie or TV series when you don't get a 100% explanation, but you finally do understand it. It makes everything fall into focus. But, long story short, we find out that the lady in the Zorn mask is actually a Jean Grey from the future.
Well, the Jean Grey... Oh, God. How did Cyclops put it later?
This is where it gets complicated.
Young, old Jean Grey.
Right. This is not the Jean Grey from the main universe or main timeline. What this is the Jean Grey that was brought forward in the past apparently never went back home. She grew up in the current timeline. So this isn't the lady that Cyclops married. This is the one he's been staring at, wondering what she's doing here. which of course complicates things to no end.
Yep.
Not to mention she's wearing the Zorn mask, who
Killed Jean Grey.
That's just a little awkward too.
But young Cyclops and Jean Grey got away, stole the Blackbird, created problems, and then they find the funniest of allies within Wolverine's crew, because as everyone from the future X-Men to the current X-Men is out looking for them, it's Shadowcat and Rachel Summers who are the ones that don't want them to be taken against their wills.
But honestly, Rachel kind of makes sense, being that she's like, hey, I can't judge. I'm from the future, and I'm kind of, doing the permanent stay here, Yeah.
It's just one of those very unusual things, because Rachel Grey, since she's returned from space, has pretty much been on the down low in most of the X books.
True.
But at the same time, Rachel Gray's history is one of being manipulated for all her life, so obviously she's not going to do well when someone else is being forced to do something against their will.
Especially Mom.
Yeah. Which has still got to be funny to see your mother younger than you.
As she said, she's going to stress eat the hell out of that.
Cable deals with that all the time.
Yeah, well, Cable spent years in a hellhole. I mean, Rachel spent most of her young life in one hellhole, but most of her adult life in...
A monastery?
I don't want to say normalcy, but at least in a much better place. But it still draws me back to that issue of All New X-Men, the first time young Jean Grey and Rachel ran into each other. They stare at each other, they look vaguely familiar, side-scanned each other at the same time, then just kind of looked away awkwardly and just walked in different directions. I can only imagine what the inner monologue was, but I think at least one of them must have said, I don't have fucking time for this. But made even more awkward is the fact that to avoid the people looking for them, young Jean Grey and Cyclops decided to call for help from Cyclops' Apocalypse Squad. Which is arguably probably the first place they would have looked for help, but the last place they expected to get it. And I loved, in the beginning of that issue, the diatribe by Maria Hill about how Cyclops isn't the problem, Wolverine isn't the problem. It's frickin' Hank McCoy.
I learned to hate that man.
No, and
Not because he's
unfortunately,
a mutant, just because it's him.
yeah. And unfortunately, she is right. Most of the things going on in the X universe that are kind of fucked up have had his thumbprint on them.
Yeah, all 3 generations.
Yeah.
He thinks he knows best.
He does, and like most villains, I'm sure he means well, but I don't think he thinks like 4 steps ahead as to what his actions may cause. And then in that issue, Magic, for no apparent reason, disappears into one of her teleportals, which scares the piss out of everybody. And the fact that she scares the Stepford Cuckoos is a statement in and of itself.
Yes.
Yeah.
And for the life of me, I kept reading, and I'm like, why is there only 2? Why is it? And then I finally get to the panel where it's the 2 blondes and the... I'm like, oh, yeah!
Yeah.
One of them cut her hair and dyed it black. Forgot about that.
Yeah, but we've discussed how that's dangerous. Anytime one of the Cuckoos starts showing individuality is generally when that one is killed.
Wait for that second one to dye her hair red.
Well, she was the first one to go down.
You make it sound like the Cuckoos are going to turn to Huey, Dewey, and Louie.
That would be effective in telling them apart.
But the dialogue in this issue was strong. The art by Chris Bachalo is a little more cartoony than most of the others. The things that in this issue resonated the most with me, though, were the silent panels, especially the one where Emma Frost is just staring at the back of the head of young Jean Grey. I always wonder what her thought process is in that moment, because it's not like she's dating Cyclops, but you know from the dialogue in previous issues that there is something going on in there that she would like to get in on.
Yeah.
She's just, unfortunately, Cyclops and Frost are blaming each other for their couple's problems individually and not talking it out. I get the feeling if they actually did talk it out, that would get hot and heavy in a heartbeat.
And then, yet again, they still kind of have Magic sitting off on the sideline, which is a little awkward.
Yeah, well, remember, she's gone at this point.
Right.
And then there's the Apocalypse Team students who are all wondering where they stand in all this, where any of the future X-Men them. Why weren't they seen anywhere?
Wolf's reaction.
Yeah. And, they have an interesting debate themselves as to what they're going to do with these kids when Wolverine's team shows up to reclaim the youngins. And the dialogue as Emma Frost is setting this up is pretty wonderful on the last page when she says Black Queen versus White Queen. The message boards would love this.
Yeah, that was damn good.
Yeah, that's a masterful bit to throw in there. And in the following issue, obviously, there's a psychic duel between Emma Frost running the powers of the Cuckoos and young Jean Grey versus old Jean Grey. Old Jean Grey eventually wins, but I get the feeling if Emma Frost had full command of her powers, I think this would be much more of an even fight.
Yeah.
Because they've discussed in Uncanny X-Men how her powers are still there, she just can't access them like she used to, and she is a world-class telepath in herself.
Yeah, it seemed like she was really relying on the Cuckoos.
Right, well, she was basically the focus for the Cuckoos. They were funneling her power through her, which is,
right. Yeah, she was the control, they were the power.
Right, and given how the Cuckoos are basically nothing more than Emma Frost's daughters, you think that'd be a match, except because of their age and inexperience, there just wasn't as much power as a full-grown Jean Grey.
Although it was kind of interesting how the young Jean Grey then kind of took advantage of that.
Yeah, the young one has a lot of power, but it's like wielding a buzzsaw. Anybody can make a good swing with it, but it takes somebody with practice that's going to do it right. Although I did love Cyclops' frustration. The young Cyclops trying to get...
Yeah.
Why are they standing there staring at each other? Why don't they do something? They are doing something. Calm down. And then all the levels and magic finally reappears in the Jean Grey school to take young Cyclops and young Beast away, so it gets more complicated.
Young Iceman.
Thank you. Young Iceman and young Beast, who are watching Jubilee's son. I love who they left him with.
How she got him again?
She appeared in the first issue of the new adjectiveless X-Men series carrying this baby without much reason. She apparently felt sorry for it at some point and just picked it up.
Okay.
But here's the deal. At the time, she didn't know it had this parasitic creature in it. And they did manage to... The creature left the baby, but as somebody else who knew it said, when they do that, it creates a hard brain reset, so the person in there no longer exists. So even though she has this 6-month-old, this thing is... Basically, its mind is restarted, and it's imprinted on her. And since she doesn't know where the baby came from, she kind of unofficially adopted it. It's her child. The name is Shogo.
Right.
But the thing is, though, when Magic picked them up, obviously they left the baby behind. The thing that kind of bothered me was who they left him with.
Who was it again?
His name is Brew. He's an immature brood parasite. I could think of other places I'd like to leave it than the thing that has an ovum depositor that'll ram something into your throat.
Yeah, not to mention, I really have to wonder what Bobby Drake's definition of perfectly safe is.
Well, the thing is, Brew is technically a mutation of the brood because he's not connected to the hive mind and you would rather not hurt anybody. He's very gentle, but he looks like a giant scaly alligator with larger teeth.
I kind of got the scaly leech more than alligator, but yeah.
Basically, scaly cockroach, I think is the best way to put it.
It's possible.
Either way, it's not something I want to put a baby in front of.
No.
What did you guys think of the speech that Deadpool laid on them to get them to stop fighting?
I found that hilarious.
Yeah. Turned out to be an utter lie and fabrication?
Yes.
And then the reason why Magic picked up the other young X-Men was because she remembered seeing the X-Men from the future, but didn't think those were the right ones. She gets to the future of the Jean Grey school, and it turns out she was right. Those crew that have been looking for the young ones to send them back in time are not the actual X-Men.
Nope.
The Jean Grey school, the X-Men are being led by Wolverine, who it turns out is Jubilee with a new call sign. Apparently missing an eye and using laser claws. Sentinel X, somebody it looks like he's in an Iron Man ripoff. Quentin Quire the Phoenix. Chimera, who is an evident daughter of the Storm and the Black Panther. Colossus, who's carrying a soul sword, which implies Magic didn't make it to this future.
Or at least that she gave him the soul sword,
yes,
as he implies.
Bobby Drake, who apparently is full-grown with a beard, and probably the most even of them all.
And seems to
Adopting
Just
a Merlin,
image
Merlin.
of "You shall not pass."
Yes. And,
Robert Drake,
yeah,
mind you.
and the one we talked about previously that looked like he's carrying Doctor Strange's Eye of Agamotto and Cloak's cape, I couldn't identify him before. In the latest issue, they used his call sign. That's frickin' Wiccan.
Who?
Still not.
Wiccan from the Young Avengers, one of the Scarlet Witch's sons.
Oh. That's... wow. So, possible hex powers as well as the Eye of Agamotto, which basically means he's a Sorcerer Supreme plus Cloak's Cloak.
It's worse than you think because he has no hex powers. His powers are to use sorcery to alter reality.
Oh, lovely.
Yes. And when I say sorcery, because he's a creation of the Scarlet Witch, he technically is a creation of chaos magic. He doesn't use incantations. He basically chants over and over the effect he would like, and the longer he chants it, the more likely it'll happen.
There's no place like home. There's no...
Essentially, yes, something that simple, and he will create the effect.
That's crazy.
But we found out why Beast Crew came back in time, although not exactly their full purpose is to uncreate this. Basically, in the future, they convinced Dazzler, arguably the most likable mutant on the planet, to run for president of the United States. She won, and during her victory speech, she was gunned down by a bolt of fire from the sky.
As well as a lot of Madrox's clones dying, and...
Yeah, and it looks like Storm got involved in the fight and didn't make it out. I think in a panel it looks like her head was burned off by some kind of dragon. So they lost a lot on that day. And whatever Beast Crew is planning, it's not going to be utterly kind, but it has to do with forcing the young X-Men back to their original time. I'm still kind of on the fence about that because arguably these kids have to go back, but I mean, I don't get why this is necessary right now, and I don't get how this is going to help them.
And why the old Jean Grey is so convinced that it's necessary.
Yeah, this is all a very big mystery to me.
They're going to be older when they get back. No one thinking about this?
Several people have. Apparently, they've come to the decision that Professor X probably wiped their minds the entire adventure. So they just lived their lives as they would have normally.
But they would still have some... I think there would be some discontinuity.
There probably would be to a certain amount, but we still haven't figured out the contiguous timeline, because I know in our timeline, it's going to take 2 years to play this story out, as it's a 24-issue maxi series. What I don't understand is how this is in their timeline, because as we've seen, times moves differently in comic books. Otherwise, most of the characters we're reading about should be in their late 90s by now. So to them, this could be a matter of weeks.
That's a lot of shit to go through in a week.
Well, Batman went through 4 Robins in 5 years. What the fuck do you expect from me?
Oh, God, that...
Brain hurt yet?
No more.
So, Beast apparently was angry over Dazzler's death, and he assembled this crew to get something done. Meanwhile, the actual X-Men of the future, they don't want this Beast doing anything. Which is kind of funny, considering that this is the way that the current Beast, the one that's on Wolverine's team, keeps talking about Cyclops.
Mm-hmm.
How's a guy that seems so morally superior get into so much fucked up shit?
Because he's not really morally superior.
I'm sure he believes it.
He just hasn't been put into a position where he's had to fuck up as badly.
Yeah, make the hard decisions. And in the latest issue that's out, the Beast Crew shows its true colors. Kate Pryde, as it turns out, is his son, from obviously Mystique, who can shape change, has short fat claws, blue skin, red hair, and stabbed his father right in the chest. What's not known probably to a lot of readers at this time is Wolverine doesn't have his healing factor. I don't know the exact story, but apparently in his self-named series he's lost it, and he's going through an arc called Killable, where Sabretooth learns he has no healing factor and is sending any mercenary he can find after him.
Lovely.
Yeah. But the kid didn't stab him all the way and didn't mean to kill him. He just meant to incapacitate him, which it looks like he did. Obviously, if he killed him, he kills himself.
Yeah, he kind of remarked on that. Hey, I'm still here. I didn't kill him.
I guess the question I have when running through the series is who's actually in charge, because even though it seems like this is the old Beast show, it looks like the Xavier is the one running things.
Mm.
And did anyone notice that when the future Jean Grey used that Cyburst to knock everyone down, there was elements of fire through the room?
Yeah, that's not a little sparkle.
Yeah, it looks like there was fire sparking off everybody she hit. So it looks like there may be a lot of other things that hasn't been said yet.
Mm-hmm.
Another interesting thing was, unfortunately Rachel Gray picked up on things a little too late, but arguably things are coming around because the one leading the charge after a lot of X-Men were put down was Jubilee. The current timeline Jubilee, the vampire.
Yes.
And Rachel Gray was down and not out, and she actually thoroughly embarrassed the Xavier.
Yeah. Until she got hit from behind by Molly Hayes.
Yeah, but that was a different arena that she was fighting on. When you consider the power that Xavier's grandson is likely to have, and the fact that she cut him down in one shot, that's fucking awe-inspiring. And the thing with the baby Shogo and this little
Hamster ball?
Yeah, force field device, that was both sad but funny as fuck. They gave him a device based on the powers of another mutant that creates this force field ball around him, and when he activates it, he's just kind of rolling around having the time of his life. Of course, I was kind of curious. I wish they did a little something to the dialogue, because there's Jubilee yelling at the baby to grab the amulet and push the beep beep. Oh my gosh.
Babies make everything funny.
Yeah, they tend to. But it appears the future X-Men have command of the grounds. They've attached power dampeners on the people they could reach. The ones they couldn't, they locked in their own rooms using the security of the school, including most of the students. And they psychically not put down, but incapacitated the Krakoa that the school is built on. Or at least is sitting on. And we find out that Sentinel X from the future, the one in the Iron Man suit, it turns out is a fully grown Shogo.
Mm-hmm.
Jubilee's own son. So she's running the team, and her son is one of the top lieutenants. I would imagine there's a lot of stability on there. Or in that squad in general.
Still doesn't keep them from arguing.
Why would it? It's mother and son. It's not bosom buddies.
No, I meant the team itself.
Oh.
The whole...
That's only natural. I'm sure there's a few times he's either been chasing a skirt or a cute ass, and it made his mother pissed. That's what kids do. But obviously things are building to a head. There's only 3 issues left, and this has got to go somewhere relatively quickly. Unfortunately, in the last panel, it shows that Psylocke got out of the underground. I wish I wasn't as thorough as I was, because I read a preview of the next issue. Turns out that
Psylocke.
Yeah, while they're reconnoitering and when they regather and try and decide on a plan, they realize that Psylocke, Young Iceman, and Young Beast are gone. Turns out that is, I believe his name is Raze. That's the call sign of Wolverine's son.
Yeah.
So he disguised himself as Psylocke, fooled him into taking him back, and then he stole the other 2 young X-Men they're looking for. That would leave just Angel, wouldn't it?
No.
They got Angel back.
Angel,
Oh, that's right. He went with... that's right.
Yeah.
So they have all 5, so they have to hurry up before they figure out how to use the time cube.
What do you mean figure out? Beast is the one that's there.
Yeah, but because of the
The
security
only thing
measure...
that they have to hope for is that because the first fight between Wolverine and all of them when Jean Grey was escaping is it did some kind of damage to the machinery and won't allow the time cube to work without fixing it.
Well, he's into the security. He hasn't activated the device yet.
Well, that's what I mean.
Well, actually, even when they activate the device, that's not a guarantee, considering Magic is still up and running. She can take them wherever they need to go.
True.
Call sign Magic Bus. That's the synopsis of where we've gotten to so far. What was your guys' opinions of this?
It's been an interesting ride. Definitely been keeping everything in motion pretty well. Keeping the action and the comedy and everything else pretty balanced.
It's kept my interest. I want to see what's going to happen next.
Yeah, I could argue that this is typical X-Men fare, where they tend to argue amongst themselves over the bigger issues, but at the same time, they've created an interesting group of villains here, which is not just mind-controlled X-Men, and it's not just 1 or 2 that have gone off the reservation. It's a whole squad that's essentially gone crazy. And not only is it a squad, it's full of notable veterans and very new, powerful characters. I'm thoroughly enjoying this in ways I didn't think I would when they laid out the basic premise a few months ago. V, what do you think of what you read?
I liked it. I'm trying to come up with more intelligent thing to say than I liked it.
I mean, you're the new reader. You said you liked it. Is this one of those things that if somebody said, what would you suggest? Would you put this in their hands?
Yeah, well, especially if they were looking for something with a lot of action in it, I guess. Like, moving plot, at least based on the first one that I read.
Yeah. I'm still wondering what the fallout of this is going to be, because obviously what's come out of New York, the original 5, are still in the current timeline. It looks like they have no connections to the school or the revolution at this point. I guess they just need time to figure out the world and what they're going to do on their own. Because you got to admit, ever since they dropped in, they've either had Cyclops, Wolverine, or Beast yelling at them about what they should be doing.
Yeah.
But at the same time, that issue of All New X-Men upcoming with X-23 kissing somebody, after reading everything, I was wondering for a little bit if maybe the mystery man she was kissing on that cover was Shogo.
Okay.
It's not the best of theories, because obviously a lot of people got to go back where they came from, but if it's one thing the X-Men do a lot is pick up members from the future.
1, 2, 3. There, I can think off the top of my head right now.
Well, obviously somebody's going to stick around that generally wouldn't, and the ideal candidates right now are probably either Shogo, Phoenix, or Raze.
Honestly, I would like to see Shogo stay. I don't think we need another child of
Wolverine and
How many are they going to have? Oh my god.
Actually, that's a good point. I hope it's not Raze, because that would be like kissing your aunt. Wow. Okay, I wish I hadn't thought of that. No, but there's a few interesting storylines that can play out here, and if Shogo stays, I think that would be a good thing, because the X-Men is one of the few superhero teams I can think of that is very female-heavy. They have a lot of chicks on these squads. And that's not a horrible thing, but it is kind of backwards. It's kind of backwards to the problems that most people talk about. A lot of people say there aren't enough female heroes. The X-Men have an abundance of them.
Yes.
You know, they have one series that's dedicated to a female-only team, not because that's what they were looking for. That's just all the interesting characters that they happen to pull together on it.
They're all drawn very, fetchingly.
Boobs.
Statuesque.
You should look up Mark Brooks. He draws these really well. But, oh, my goodness. I think that's about it for that conversation. It looks like it's an actual recommender.
Mm-hmm.
It is one of those things that if I have friends who haven't read comics in a while, this is the kind of thing that I would toss down to them as something that's really good and can be a head-scratcher, but it's a good place to jump in. I think that's the important thing that a lot of series lack, is a good place to get into the book. I was trying to think about what to do from next week. I know I usually have more of a plan than this, but my last few weeks have been kind of lopsided. I was actually thinking maybe, as one of those freeform type items, maybe we should all pick 2 issues from Villains Month from DC and flip through them.
Oh, you're gonna
Make choices?
There's technically 52 or 60 of them.
I don't want to read through them all again.
You don't have to read through them again, just pick 2 of them to talk about. Christ, dude.
Ugh.
Come on, pick up your balls and relax a little. Jesus. But at least it gives you guys choices as to what you want to talk about. You don't have to find things that piss you off purposefully. You can actually find ones you like.
Oh, let me peruse through them all again.
You know, and that's like most of the major or notable DC villains that had one issue to talk about. I think that sounds interesting because, like I said, I want to find out about the good ones you guys find, and it's a different vantage point, and it gives you a chance to actually get inside the DC villain's head for once.
Mm-hmm.
You know, some of them are good, some of them are bad. That's just... I read several that I thought would be of my interest. There were some that were really great, a lot of them average, and a few that I really wish I could just rip out my eyes for a little while. Sound like a plan?
Yeah, sure. I like villains.
All right.
Sure.
And I don't think there was anything else major that occurred. The second episode of Kill La Kill came out.
How was that?
I had to shut my mouth because I nearly laughed myself to the point where I was going to wake up the baby. I mean, seriously, there's one scene where the heroine, I think her name is Ryoko, is trying to figure out why this sailor suit she's wearing that is sentient wouldn't activate when she needed to fight again. And her homeroom teacher took a syringe of her blood, squirted the costume with a little bit of it, suddenly it opens its one good eye and starts screaming about how it wants more blood. And as confused as I was, there was that part of me that was, I guess, a small child that was just giggling maniacally, because this thing freaking out on the wall screaming for blood was just a very strange visual. You know, and remember I said last week it's kind of a throwback to 70s animes and how odd they were?
Mm-hmm.
Do you guys remember how thematic villains were in the 70s and 80s? Like Batman villains, you know, even the thugs had weird masks and stuff.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Given that a lot of the series seems to take place in a Japanese fascist high school, the fact that the first villain was the head of the boxing club. He came out in like boxing gear, shorts, you know, gigantic iron gloves. Her next opponent was the head of the tennis club, who was given a special outfit that's a tennis dress, but the bottom of it isn't ruffles. The whole thing is filled in with like tennis balls. She's carrying this gigantic tennis racket with spikes around it. Looks like it's about the size of a battle axe. You know, complete with a special 100 million ball serve, something of that nature.
Oh, God.
You know, it's all just that ridiculous. You almost expect somebody to yell "Form Blazing Sword" before they do anything. And the series is just ridiculous enough to be funny. There is a character who kind of inserts herself as the protagonist's best friend. She's one of those characters that... she's like a hyperactive ADD rabbit. I mean, as soon as she tells this girl to sit next to her in class, as soon as the teacher starts her lecture, she slams down a book, shovels down her entire lunch, and falls asleep. And all this takes place in the span of about 3 seconds. You know, and even the protagonist is sitting there, she suddenly turns her head and just goes, "When did she fall asleep?" It's one of those. I mean, if you guys have not watched it, seriously, it's for free, I think, on Hulu.com. You know, plug in a laptop, put it on the big screen, and sit some people down, because this is fucking funny. You know, between that and the fact that Valve Rave, the second season, started today.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, today, the 10th. Excuse me. I was waiting on that.
What started?
Valve.
Yeah, the second episode of Valve Rave the Liberator. Or the second season, excuse me. The first episode came out today, and it did not disappoint. Steve, you watched that, right?
I still haven't watched the first season, but it's on my list.
It's on Hulu. It's a full recommend by me, especially as a giant robot fan. So
yeah, I'm still working my way through. Brain fart.
Yeah, I love that series.
Well, I finished Majestic Prince and.
Oh, I wanted to ask you about that because I thought, as far as anime endings go, that's about as close to perfect as you can get.
Yeah, honestly, if you're not planning on continuing it, they ended it in a good spot.
Yeah, well, there are still a couple questions I would have liked the answer to, but where they ended it, I'm satisfied completely.
Right.
And it's about... I love the whole series because a lot of series, they tend to get very repetitive in their standoffish nature. You know, you go out, you sortie, you beat the villain, you come back to base, and things slowly build, but often things don't change. In this series, you really got the feeling
constant change.
Yeah, every episode, their situation wasn't just changing, but they were barely getting away by the skin of their teeth very often.
Yeah.
You know, they actually struggled throughout, and things just got progressively worse for them to the point where you actually had to guess who was going to come back alive. I thought that was an incredible series to watch.
It was definitely exciting.
Yeah. All right. Well, next week we're going to talk about Villains Month, and don't cry, Jesse, for crying out loud.
What?
Oh my God, we have to get you a testosterone shot. I invite you to roll with us again next week. Thank you very much for tuning in. I am Jeremy.
Steve?
Jesse?
Me.
Thank you very much. Jesus Christ, dude, what purse did you put your balls in? Seriously.